So hi, very good evening. I hope it is audible to you. So as I am not able to see, अच्छा कल ही तो हुई थी class. Yesterday was the last class. So I think that we did talk about that Muslim League. That was the last thing I mentioned in the yesterday's class, that Muslim League. So now we will start with that rest of the or remaining things associated with the Congress of that time, and some of the aspects associated with the this particular Swadeshi movement. Then, so give me 1 minute. So now listen. So some of the aspects of the Swadeshi movement which we didn't covered yesterday only. So now listen, that these all has happened. Swadeshi has started, Muslim League has been created then, and Swadeshi is going on, and moreover Swadeshi is going on. Apart from that, just give me 1 minute. I will just moderate. So listen, so at the same point of time, the extremist leaders of the Congress, they wanted to up the ante. Then, so they wanted to up the passive resistance. Be simple. So passive resistance, that some more things must be included into the passive resistance. So what they wanted by this point of time, they wanted that this particular boycott which they have started, it must be extended to everything that is British. Then not just the Manchester cloth and Liverpool salt, but all the British goods and services. Then, so all the British goods and services. So boycott must be extended to this. On the other hand, the moderate leaders, they wanted to use it in a limited fashion and not to be extended to the other goods and services. So on this tussle, obviously the tussle is there, and everybody would like to have their own president. Then, so everybody will like to have their own president to have a greater say in the Congress. So there is a one thing about that, that you need to know about that moderate and extremist. They that moderates were, extremists were, they were thinking from the heart. Then वो दिल से सोचते थे, and the moderate people, they were thinking from the brains. So वो दिमाग से सोचते थे. So एक दिल से सोचते थे, दूसरे दिमाग से सोचते थे, and obviously which will win? दिमाग will win. So they were intelligent people. Moderates were quite intelligent people, and दिल से सोचने वाले थोड़े emotional होते हैं, you know that. So this extremists were दिल से सोचने वाले. So what happened? That they were expecting, they all were expecting कि इस वाले session में तो हमारा president होगा ही. Then, and they had greater popularity also all over India. That extremist leaders were becoming much more popular. But there was one area where moderates were quite popular. That area was the area of the Bombay presidency. In the Bombay and Surat, Ahmedabad, this all circle, that moderates were a bit popular. So 1906 annual session of the Congress, it was to be convened in Calcutta. So it was to be convened in Calcutta, and it was very much expected that somebody from the extremist will become the president. But moderates were so chalu, that they were so clever. I will say clever, not chalu, because they were Indian nationalists. So they were very clever that what they did, that they forwarded the name of the Dadabhai Naoroji. Now, Dadabhai Naoroji is a grand old man of India, and moreover, he's one of the most respected guys at that point of time. So nobody can dare to oppose him, and not just the dare. There was a respect that he enjoyed in all the circles. No matter who is moderate, who is extremist, everybody respected Dadabhai Naoroji. So once they proposed, that moderates proposed the name of the Dadabhai Naoroji, so what happened? Now extremists cannot do anything. They cannot name their own candidate. So they did not they did not propose any name, and they conciliated with that Dadabhai Naoroji ki chalo ye to अच्छे आदमी हैं, इनको रहने देते हैं, ठीक है, and everything would be fine. So now Dadabhai Naoroji was also like that ki since extremists have also accepted and moderates have proposed my name, so he was of the view that there must be conciliation between the groups. Then कि दोनों को साथ में काम करना चाहिए. So to conciliate between the two groups, he gave some compromise resolutions, and we are calling this compromise resolution क्योंकि compromise है, some compromise would be made by the moderate, and some compromise would be made by the extremist leader. So these compromise resolutions in 1906 were, one was that boycott, no clarity which type of the boycott, extended or limited. He only said boycott would be there. Then he said that there was a resolution on the partition of the Bengal, because that is the factor. So wo to rahega hi. So resolution on the partition of the Bengal. Then another was related to the Swaraj or Swadesi. Okay? So Swaraj, another was related to Swaraj, and here Swaraj or self-rule, this way. I will tell you that why we are writing both, and there is a side of this one. So Swaraj or self-rule, and then Swadesi, made in India, and then was the national education. So these all compromise resolutions were given, and he was expecting that ki dono ek dusre mein maan jayenge, they will kind of reach out to each other, and there would be some midway path. So what happened? That sab to sahi tha, everything was right. Let me write all the resolutions. Tab discuss karne mein acha lagega. So the first resolution was boycott. Then one resolution on partition of Bengal, that there must be unification. Then Swaraj or self-rule. Then Swadesi. And fifth was the national education. National education. Then, so now listen. The problem area at this point of time, so this is not a problem. Okay? Swadesi is not a problem between the two groups. National education is not a problem. Problem is this. And problem is this. So, problem is boycott, because it was not very clear that what kind of boycott. Extended boycott ya purana wala limited boycott. Then Swaraj and self-rule. So Swaraj and self-rule, this was kept in a way that both the things are there, and both the things do not mean the same. Swaraj का मतलब self-rule नहीं होता है, और self-rule का मतलब Swaraj नहीं होता है. So let's look at this word. Please don't write right now. Let me explain first. So when it comes to the Swaraj, the origin of this word Swaraj, from where you can trace the origin of the word Swaraj, Swaraj and Swaraj, from the time of the Shivaji. So from the time of the Shivaji, you can trace the origin of the word Swaraj. And Swaraj is what? The area which is directly ruled by the natives of that area and the native place. Then, so meaning that Swaraj, the meaning of the Swaraj would be the complete freedom of India. British will have no say, no role in this Swaraj of India. While on the other hand, self-rule would be that Indians are ruling, but under the umbrella of the British Commonwealth, under the umbrella of the British Crown. So it is just like the colonies which are there at the different places, British colonies in Canada and Australia. They were self-ruling, the people of the Australia and Canada were self-ruling, but they were under the umbrella of the British Crown. Then, so that's what was the moderate version, and this is what is the extremist version. So after the resolution, after these resolutions were forwarded, again the differences came up between the two groups. And both started to say that boycott means full boycott, and other groups said that boycott means half boycott, limited boycott. And here, extremists saying that this is Swaraj. Third resolution is Swaraj, and they said that this is self-rule. Moreover, there was a planning from the moderate side that next time, whenever there would be the Congress session, they will be usurping the Congress machinery, and moreover, they will make their agenda very clear that it is self-rule, they don't want Swaraj. Okay? So this is what was the thing on which the next session was to be held, and that next session was the Surat session. We will talk about that. It's an interesting session, but first you write. So, you write, on the question of boycott, first we are writing about the boycott. So on the question of boycott, differences started to emerge. Differences started to emerge between the extremist and the moderate leaders. Between the extremist and the moderate leaders. Then you write all extremists and the moderate leaders, full stop. Extremist wanted boycott of all the British goods and services. Boycott of all the British goods and services. Then mention all the British goods and services. But moderates wanted to use it in limited way. To use it in limited way. Then after full stop you write annual session of INC as a subheading in this one, INC at Calcutta 1906. At Calcutta 1906. So please write this subheading, and under this subheading you will be writing the collision between, after writing this subheading, you write from here, the collision between two groups was avoided, by electing Dadabhai Naoroji. The collision between the two groups was avoided by electing Dadabhai Naoroji as the president of Congress session. At Calcutta. Now listen, who forwarded the name of the Dadabhai Naoroji at this point of time? So the person who forwarded the name, he was Gopal Krishna Gokhale. So Gopal Krishna Gokhale was the one who forwarded the name, and there could be many versions of this theory. On one hand, you can blame. You can say that moderates were very intelligent and then they did this thing. But on the other hand, you can think in another fashion, you can think in another way, that Gopal Krishna Gokhale did an intelligent thing to avoid the further division in the Congress. What if Dadabhai Naoroji would not have been the candidate? So then, suppose that extremists would have forwarded the name of the Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and then somebody else's must have come from the moderate Congress. So there must have been election and further division. There is no such scope of conciliation. So you can credit Gopal Krishna Gokhale for forwarding the name of the Naoroji because he was respected in both the factions. So his idea was good, and moreover, you will learn later on that it was Gopal Krishna Gokhale who was considered by the Gandhi that his political guru. So Gandhiji considered Gopal Krishna Gokhale as his political guru. In fact, when Gandhi was there in the South Africa, he invited Gokhale, and Gokhale went to South Africa also. So that's a different thing. I think that in today's class only we will be talking about the episode of the Gandhi. Because on one hand, listen, on one hand, first phase of the freedom struggle is happening, second phase of the freedom struggle is happening, and the most important character, one of the most important, I will not say most important, but one of the most important character of the Indian freedom struggle, Mohandas Karamchandra Gandhi, he is in South Africa from 1893. So we need to look at the same point of time कि इंडिया में ये हो रहा था, South Africa में क्या हो रहा था. So please write, देखेंगे आज में. So you write that Australia and, that what you have written, Dadabhai Naroji as the president of the Congress at Calcutta. Then you write, Naroji gave 5 compromise resolutions. Naroji gave 5 compromise resolution. 5 compromise resolution so as to reconcile moderates and extremists. So as to reconcile moderates and extremists. So you write, ये जो लिखा है इधर में, please mention these all. So not this way, ऐसे मत लिखो. First one you write, let me write it first. So first, resolution for unification of Bengal. That would be better. So unification of Bengal. Resolution for unification of Bengal. Then second, boycott. Third, Swaraj or self-rule. And Dadabhai Naroji also did not discuss. दोनों ही डाल के छोड़ दिया. ठीक है? And then you write Swadeshi. And then fifth you can write as the national education. National education. Then you write national education, full stop. Then you mention, change paragraph, and then you write different interpretations were given by the moderates and extremist leaders. Different interpretations were given by the moderate and the extremist leaders regarding the resolutions. Which created an atmosphere of confusion and anxiety. So now, after this, you write this major heading. So you write split in Congress not in, because in will indicate still intact. Split of Congress at INC annual session at Surat, popularly known as Surat Split. So this you write as a heading, and this session is happening in 1907. So listen. Now, there are a few things to discuss with you. So the session was to be conducted at somewhere else. Then, and you know where? So session was to be conducted in the area of the Nagpur. So earlier, in 1906, when the session has happened, so they have decided that next time the session would be conducted at Nagpur. So Nagpur was the earlier proposed area, but these moderates, they were so intelligent then that they shifted, they did had a little bit of influence in the Congress machinery. So at this point of time, they shifted the session at Surat. What is the purpose? What is the purpose behind shifting the session at Surat? The purpose was that rule which I defined yesterday. So Tilak belonged to the Bombay presidency. Tilak belonged to the Bombay presidency, but he was quite popular in the Nagpur area. And Nagpur at that point of time, it was the part of the central province of India. So Nagpur was the central province of India, not part of the Bombay. So he was originally from Bombay, and if the session happens at the Nagpur, so obviously this point of time, nobody can stop Tilak from becoming the president of the Congress. Okay? And Surat was the part of the Bombay presidency. And Surat and Bombay were the areas where hell lot of influence of the moderate were there. So business class, capitalist class, all the people they are living from Bombay to Ahmedabad, that is the stretch. And these were the people who had very much, or you can say that good repertoire with the British officers and the British authority. So that's why they were moderate. Then they were the capitalist people and they were moderate. Then, so most of them were industrialists and capitalists. So they had a huge influence in that area. So they shifted the session to Surat. Now, Tilak cannot contest the election. Tilak cannot contest the election. Automatically he is ruled out. Moreover, if they place anybody else's name as the president, so he would be defeated because that was the moderate influence area. So now what happened? At this point of time, there was one person from the extremist who was highly charged then, and who was highly angry, and he was a young man, and rightly so, that he must be boiling. And I hope you know his name. His name was the Aurobindo. So Aurobindo was quite angry at this point of time that what was happening. And he was able to sense also that these moderates are playing the game with the extremist people. So what he did, that he knew this all scenario, that Aurobindo knew this all scenario, that since the session is happening at the Surat, that is the moderate area, so large number of moderate presence would be there in the session. So what he did, that Aurobindo, just before this particular session, he toured in his own area and in the area where the influence of the extremist was there. So from Bengal, central province, he carried near about 1,300 people, no, 1,000 people, 1,000 people to the Surat. So 1,000 supporters of the extremist, they came at Surat. And when this news was learnt by the moderate leaders in Logonebi, 1,300 supporters in one day they called to the Surat. Then, so what happened, that the Surat session started, and session after the start of the session, Rasbihari Ghosh, he became the president. He was a moderate. So Rasbihari Ghosh, he became the president. So then the proceedings of the session started. So proceedings of the session started, and moderates, they made it very clear that what is their agenda. And then came the turn of the Tilak. So turn of the Tilak, and Tilak was unaware of all the things which were happening. All the things which were happening, he was quite unaware. Most of the time, he was informed by the Lala Lajpat Rai. In fact, before the session, Lala Lajpat Rai gave, ये कुछ लिखना नहीं है, but कहानी है सुन लो पूरी, ठीक है? So Lala Lajpat Rai gave one information to Tilak. He said to Tilak that, see that I can sense that what is happening around, and there was a meeting between the moderate leaders and the British authority. Lala Lajpat Rai, they said to the Tilak, that meeting between the moderates and then the British authority, and they want that session to be conducted in a way so that extremist leaders can be imprisoned. So Lala Lajpat Rai had this spy network, and then he said it to the Tilak. Tilak got the news, okay? He kept it within him. And then when he turned up to give his speech, Rasbihari Bose did not allow him. Okay? So Rasbihari Bose, the speaker, who is the president, who is presiding the assembly, he did not allow it. And when he did not allow it, so, and moreover, not only did not allow, but Tilak is turning up to speak up, and Rasbihari Bose not allowing, and Tilak started to read from his pages. When he started to read from the pages, so the 1,300 moderate supporters who were there, they raised their chairs to throw on the Tilak. And somebody threw a chair on the body of the Tilak. The chair, it broke, and one of the stick, it hit the Tilak. When that stick hit the Tilak, the extremist supporters, who were 1,000 in number, they also started hurling their shoes, their chappals, their jutas, whatever they found at that point of time on the people. So the issue was that some of these extremist supporters, they wanted to hit Rasbihari Bose because he is the one who started. So they wanted to hit him with the chappal, and one chappal they threw, one such sandal. अब हिंदी में यूज कर रहा हूँ, चप्पल को चप्पल ही बोलेंगे ना, तो अंग्रेजी बहुत ज्यादा यूज नहीं करना चाहिए. So one such chappal was hurled on the Ras Bihari Bose, but what happened? Ras Bihari Bose was flexible enough, and that chappal hit Surendranath Banerjee. Then another Su, it was hurled on the Ras Bihari Bose, and that hit Firoz Shah Mehta. And they were the stalwarts of the moderate Congress. इन्होंने दिल पे ले लिया दोनों ने कि नहीं अब तो मतलब ना जदोजहद होके रहेगी, ठीक है, कि now there is no conciliation, no scope of conciliation. They have humiliated, and they fought like that enemies who are always on the dagger. And that was very unfortunate. And in this assembly, because of this unruly behavior and because of this stuff, there was a split in the Congress. And not just the split in the Congress, but there was an outcome of that. What Lala Lajpat Rai informed to the Tilak, that was 100% true information. So we can say that moderates cheated on the extremist, but there are many angles to that. I will not use this word, but yes, what moderates did at this point of time, that was not right at all. And Tilak was never in the favor of splitting the Congress. Even after this much humiliation, this much fight, Tilak persuaded these all people, Surendranath Banerjee, Firoz Shah Mehta, but इनके तो दिल पे लग गई थी कि हमको चप्पल लग गया, ठीक है. So we are hit from the chappals, we are hit from the jutas, so how come we will be conciliating with you? So they took it on their prestige then. And the same line I'll repeat, that गर्मी और बेइज्जती महसूस करने पे ज्यादा लगती है. So Surendranath Banerjee and Firoz Shah Mehta were like that only. In fact, I'll tell you one story. Firoz Shah Mehta was such a badass person at that point of time that later on you will be reading, sun lo abhi, that later on you will be reading that Tilak is going to jail, Mandale jail, in 1908. He will be released from the jail in 1914, coming back to India. Again, that person will start trying that moderates and extremists become one, because he has seen that it has not benefited anyone. But you know, the biggest roadblock in this, that why the moderates and the extremists, they were not getting united, that was Firoz Shah Mehta. He didn't wanted at any cost that moderates must be included in the Congress, and everyone in the Congress wanted to be this kind of conciliation, that moderate and extremist. And the day Firoz Shah Mehta died in 1916, both the groups combined. So such was the scenario, and such were the people. Okay? So please write. You have written split of Congress at INC. So you mentioned initially session was to be held at Nagpur, but it was shifted to Surat by the moderates. Then you write Ras Bihari, moderate leader Ras Bihari Ghosh became the president. So later on, listen, there are two Ras Biharis in the Indian history. One is the Ras Bihari Ghosh, and another is the revolutionary. His name was the Ras Bihari Bose. So how you will be differentiating between them? How you will be remembering this name? You can always add that he was a demon. He was a ghost. I always remember like this, Ras Bihari Ghost. And when you remember Ras Bihari Ghost, so automatically samajh mein aa jayega, he was the one responsible for the Surat split. And Bose, so Subhash Chandra Bose was a revolutionary, so Ras Bihari Bose was a revolutionary. So this way you can remember this name, ki kaun sa acha wala tha aur kaun sa bura wala tha. So you write Ras Bihari Ghosh became the president. Then you write, in this session, moderates captured the Congress machinery. In this session, moderates captured the Congress machinery and did not let the extremist leaders and did not let extremist leaders even to speak from the papers. Even to speak from the papers. Then, even to speak from the papers. Full stop. Then, it finally led to the split in Congress. Split of Congress. It finally led to the split of Congress in 1907. Split of Congress in 1907. And it was, you know, that it was very unfortunate that what happened in Congress. So now, the next thing as a subheading, please write. Policy of carrot and stick. Policy of carrot and stick. So, let's talk about the policy of carrot and stick. So, soon after this Surat session has happened, split in the Congress has happened, who is most happy? Obviously, it is the British authority. This is what they wanted, and this is what they wanted, and this is what it has happened. So now, what is this carrot and stick policy? It was initiated, it was forwarded by the then Viceroy Minto and his secretary Morley. So Morley Minto. So they are the one who are coming up with this strategy. So what is this carrot? Let me write. Carrot is the policy of appeasement. और ये सब कुछ, everything that you are reading here, everything which you are reading here, that is, you can correlate at this point of time. I told you that some people are not allowed to speak, that you can relate with the parliament. And then people holding the collar of the speaker, that you can also relate. And then people fighting with each other. It has happened in the history in 1907, now it is happening in the 1921. So, history that ऐसा नहीं है कि repeat नहीं होता है, but at this point of time, it is repeating itself. Then, policy of appeasement. So this is policy of appeasement, and now you see that at this point of time also, there are people in the political circles, there are the netas that who all resort to the policy of appeasement. So this policy of appeasement was for the moderate. कि तुम मेरा साथ दो, मैं तुम्हें power दूंगा. So I am changing the slogan. So तुम मेरा साथ दो, मैं तुम्हें power दूंगा, kind of that policy of appeasement. So it was for the moderate. Now, stick, policy of stick. So it is suppression. Suppression. And suppression of what? The extremist leaders. So extremist leader, and moreover, stick is what? Giving punishment. So giving punishment, and they were given punishment. We will talk about that. So it is for the extremist leaders of the Congress. So this is what happened at this point of time. This is what is exactly meaning of the policy of carrot and stick, followed by the then Viceroy Minto. Okay? So लिखो इसमें that after the split of Congress, after or Surat split, you can mention, after the split of Congress, British authority adopted this policy. British authority adopted this policy, whereby, you know, Tilak was sent to Mandale jail for 6-year imprisonment, and in 1908, then Lala Lajpat Rai, he was imprisoned for 1 year. Then Bipin Chandrapal, he was imprisoned for 6 months, and then V.O. Chidambaram Pillai, he was imprisoned for 6 months. And one person, you will know, he was all charged up, but something will happen in his own life, not right now, thode time ke baad, that Aurobindo would be taking retirement from the politics. But he was the one who was quite active at this point of time. Ki eent ka jawab patthar se denge. He was like that person. Then, so please write that whereby Tilak was arrested and deported to Mandale jail, deported to Mandale jail. This is in Myanmar. So Mandale is in Myanmar. Mandale jail for 6 years. For 6 years. Tilak was arrested and deported to Mandale jail for 6 years. And then you write Lala Lajpat Rai imprisoned for 1 year or jailed for 1 year. Bipin Chandrapal and Chidambaram Pillai. Bipin Chandrapal and Chidambaram Pillai for Bipin Chandrapal and Chidambaram Pillai were arrested for or were imprisoned for 6 months. Then after full stop, you mention. See, in Surat what happened? That such was the violence that police was called. Such was the violence that police was called, and police came, since Lakshya you asked. So police was called, and then police framed Tilak that he is the one who incited the violence. These extremists are the ones who incited the violence, and on these charges they were arrested. ठीक है? Inciting the violence, fighting, ठीक है? So अपने ही भाइयों ने अपने ही भाइयों को जेल में भेज दिया. So you write that, you mention, policy of appeasement was adopted for moderate leaders. For moderate leaders in the form of, so this is what we are going to write. You can write it as a heading then. So please mention Modelamento reforms in the form of Modelamento reforms, and this you can write as a heading also. Okay? The another heading in this one would be the Government of India Act 1909. So Modelamento reforms or Government of India Act 1909. Then, so now listen, थोड़े टाइम के लिए ये बंद होना चाहिए, ठीक है? So let me complete the part. So this Government of India Act 1909, we need to see that what all things were proposed at this point of time, and see that time and again I have mentioned that these are important from your perspective of your prelims exam. Every year they do ask at least one question from these acts. So listen, and 1909 के बाद से तो बहुत important है. 1909, 19 and then 1935. These three are the quite important ones. So first of all, in this 1909 there was a provision of the election. Okay? So there was a provision of the election, particularly for the Provincial Legislative Council. So Provincial Legislative Council के लिए there was a provision of the election. But election, how it was happening? So the elected members were indirectly elected. ऐसा नहीं है कि direct election है. This is an indirect election. So indirectly elected, and what is this system of the indirect election? So this was, they were elected through electoral college. And these all concept I think सब लोग समझे होंगे polity में. So electoral college, and who were the members of this electoral college? So on a generic level we can say that rich people of India. Only rich people were the part of the electoral college. And who were rich? So landlords, zamindars were rich. Okay? So, and then college professors, teachers, they were rich. Then also local bodies, they were rich. Then rich traders. So these people were the part of the electoral college. So they were the part of the electoral college, and they were the one who were electing these members. Okay? So this is an indirect thing. Moreover, the second provision which happened at this point of time in 1909, if you remember, in 1892, one of the provision was that increase in the number of the non-official members in the provincial and central legislative council. But the British authority maintained, though they increased the number of Indians as non-official members, but they retained official majority in both of them. Matlab, in both of them, the Britishers would be more in number as compared to Indians. At this point of time, this provision was diluted in the provinces, meaning that in provinces official majority was abolished. Another meaning would be that more Indians or majority number of Indians could be there in the provincial assemblies, then so provincial councils. So this is a one such achievement, you can say that this is one such achievement, and further more political rights has been granted to the Indians. So this is what happened. But in the central legislative council, they maintained official majority, meaning that in the central area there would be still more number of the Britishers. So in the next reform, what would be the idea of the, or what would be the next such reform from the side of the British? So in 1919, center se bhi hata denge, dono jagah pe, both the places, Indians could be in majority. So you can see that it is going stepwise. So sabse pehle, 1861, Indians coming to the council. 1862, more Indians coming to, 1892, more Indians into the council. Now, Indians in majority in provincial assembly in 1909, and Indians would be more in number in provincial and central councils in 1919. So it is a very gradual, stepwise. ऐसे याद करोगे. If you start memorizing and mugging up this fact, नहीं याद होगा. But you look at the trend which is there. So trend say you will be able to remember. ठीक है? So please write very first one. First one you write. It made provision of election. It made provision of election for provincial legislative council. Provision of election for provincial legislative council. Full stop. Then you write provincial legislative council. Then you write elected members, or the members were to be elected indirectly. Members were to be elected indirectly by an electoral college, which consisted of landlords, group of teachers, local bodies, group of teachers, local bodies, traders, rich traders, etc. Rich traders, etc. Rich traders, etc. Then the second provision you write. The official majority was abolished. The official majority was abolished in the provincial legislative councils. Official majority was abolished in the provincial legislative council. But it was retained in central legislative council. But it was retained in central legislative council. It was retained in central legislative council. Full stop. Then, so now listen. Again in 1892, बार-बार हम लोग refer करेंगे. So again in 1892, what was the new such right which was given to the Indians, that they can discuss the budget. Then, so that discuss the budget is there, but much more is required from discussing the budget. So at this point of time, Indian members were allowed to vote on separate budget items. So Indian members were allowed to vote on separate budget items, and moreover, they can ask supplementary questions and introduce resolution. So they can ask supplementary question and introduce resolution. ये सब type के question I think that you must have read in the polity, start question and start question. मेरे को थोड़ा सा difference that I used to forget that what was that type. So I hope you know that what are these questions. So these supplementary question and then introduce resolution at this point of time. So this is what was there. And what is separate budget item? So basically, Britishers considered कि जो budget item, the item which is less important, where the less number of spending would be there, less spending would be there, that is a separate budget item. Okay? So that is a separate budget item. And all the avenues of the earning, they kept in the other items. So not in the separate budget items. Okay? So this what they did. Another thing which is one of the effect or one of the, you can say that the manifestation of the divide and rule policy, and this is going to start from here, and that is separate electorate for the Muslims at this point of time. I'll explain that what is this, but first you write. So Indian members were given, next you write, Indian members were given or not given, were allowed, Indian members were allowed to vote on separate budget items. Separate budget items to vote on separate budget items and ask supplementary questions and ask supplementary questions and introduce resolutions Then, so this is one part. Then you write, next provision you write, they also introduced separate electorate for the Muslims. Separate electorate for the Muslims. Now listen, what is this separate electorate for the Muslims? So suppose that there is an area, that some areas, if they are declared to be the separate electorate for the Muslims, so in that area, consider that whichever district you are, that district has been declared as the separate electorate for the Muslim. So in that area, in that constituency, there would be only Muslim candidates who will be fighting the election. Okay? Only Muslim candidates. And how come it is different from the present system of the reservation? In the present system, the seats are reserved for the particular communities. It's different. So when seats are reserved in the present system, everybody votes. Every eligible voter votes. But that's not the case in the separate electorate. If an area has been declared as the separate electorate for the Muslim, so the candidate would be Muslim and voters would also be Muslim. No Hindu can vote, no Buddhist can vote, no Jaina can vote. So this is what is the major bone of contention. So this is how it is different from the reserved constituency and separate electorate constituency. Okay? Moreover, not everybody was voting at that point of time. Hardly 7 to 8% of the Indian population were voting. And why such a very less scenario? The less scenario that for eligible to be a voter, there was a qualification, and that qualification was the income qualification. British has said that this particular income and above this income, whoever is there, they would be eligible to vote. Those people who are lower in income, they cannot vote. So income qualification was the criterion for the voter right. Then, and moreover, not only they introduced separate electorate, but they also introduced and income qualification of the Muslims. They kept the income qualification of the Muslim way lower than the Hindus. Then, so income qualification of the Muslims way lower than the Hindus. For example, suppose there is a Hindu and who is voting, and for Hindu the income qualification was that his income must be 1 lakh rupees per month. Then suppose मैंने बोला है, लिख मत लेना ऐसा. So his income must be 1 lakh rupees per month. Then he can vote. Then, but for Muslims what they did, that if he is a Muslim, so his income must be 50,000 rupees per month. Then, so this is what is exactly what we can call divide and rule policy. Okay? So divide and rule policy, and there would be a sense of relative deprivation. So please mention that in this only, what you have written, they introduced the separate electorate for the Muslims. The income qualification of Muslims was kept way lower than the other communities. Way lower than the other communities. Way lower than the other communities. Then, so this is one such part. And then, listen, one last provision. One Indian member was to be appointed or to be added to the Viceroy Executive Council. So one Indian member was to be added to the Viceroy Executive Council, and the first person was Satyendra Prasad Sinha in 1909, who became the member of the Viceroy Executive Council. So please write, he is Satyendra Prasad Sinha. There was a Satyendranath Tagore. Okay? So that was a different person. Here it is a Sinha, and Satyendra Prasad Sinha, not Nath. So you write, one Indian member was to be added to the Viceroy Executive Council. To the Viceroy Executive Council. To the Viceroy Executive Council. And then you mention Satyendra Prasad Sinha. Satyendra Prasad Sinha in 1909 was the first member to hold this post. Then, so to hold this post. Then, so now listen. Questions, I think that any fine day, half an hour, I will bring the questions. ठीक है? किसी दिन दिखाया था मैंने तुम लोगों को question. I think I have shown you the question, but again I will bring 4-5 questions together, and I'll bring in a PDF format so that I can easily share with you, and then we will discuss. ठीक है? So we will talk about that. Now let's listen about that what happened after this 1909. These moderates who were promised कि आने वाले समय पे तुम्हारे दिन अच्छे होंगे, ठीक है, that अच्छे दिन आएंगे. They were in the expectation that this अच्छे दिन, it would be a vikas, then, and there would be a vikas, there would be fulfillment of all the desires, then India will grow in leaps and bounds, and then this happened. These provisions happened. So the provisions of the Government of India Act 1909, it could not satisfy the aspiration of the moderate leaders. It could not satisfy the aspiration of the moderate leaders, and moreover, they were highly disaffected and they highly opposed this separate electorate concept. So, this separate electorate concept on the basis of the religion. So, they were highly disaffected with this one. Moreover, at this point of time, they were also disaffected with the one statement of the Morley, who was the Secretary of the State. And Morley said that he has absolutely no intention to introduce a parliamentary form of government in India. So he said very clearly that he has no intention to introduce parliamentary form of government in India, and then after all the dreams shattered to a bust. So all the dreams shattered to a bust and dust, whatever you say, it became powdered, and they realized that they have been cheated. But they have been cheated, and moreover, they have been fooled. But who is responsible for that? They themselves were responsible for that. That they are the one who created the background of this one. And moreover, even after this lesson, there is a person like Firoz Mehta who is still, उनकी अपनी इमेज को इतनी आघात पहुंचा है कि वो किसी और को इंक्लूड नहीं कर सकते. In English, what we can say that his own image was so hot that he was not even softening his stand to include the extremist leader in the moderate fold. In fact, he was a person who was seeing himself on the top of the Congress, then, or beyond the vision of the Congress and beyond the aspirations of the people of this country. So there were this kind of people, and you can call them as a nationalist. We can celebrate them. We can write their achievements. Then, but ऐसे लोग जो इस time पे होते, so you would have been criticizing in a much better manner. But since this is a thing of the past, so we cannot criticize a lot. Then, so please write few words about that moderate. कि इनकी feeling कैसी थी. Right? The provisions of Government of India. The provisions of Government of India Act 1909 could not satisfy the aspirations of moderate leaders. Satisfy the aspirations of moderate leaders. Full stop. They opposed creation of separate electorate. They opposed creation of separate electorate on the basis of religion. On the basis of religion. Moreover, they were highly disaffected. With the statement of Morley, Secretary of State. Morley, Secretary of State, that he has clearly no intention to introduce parliamentary form of government in India. Parliamentary form of government in India. So now, obviously, when somebody says like this, so moderates are disaffected and they are becoming hopeless, but they will not sit back. Okay? So then, using their brains and using their intelligence, then now they started to protest. And they started writing letters to the authorities in the Britain. And moreover, they clearly mentioned their displeasure over the Government of India Act 1909. So to give little bit of avenues to the moderate leaders of India, or little bit of conciliation with the moderate leaders of India, finally in 1911, the Grand Delhi Darbar was conducted. So Grand Delhi Darbar was conducted. King George, he came to India, George V, he came to India, and he announced the annulment of partition of Bengal. So he announced annulment of the partition of the Bengal, but with a catch. So annulment is not happening in such a way, the way the leaders were expecting, but the way Britishers wanted. So what they did, that though the Bengal got united, but the separate state of Bihar and Odisha was created. So separate state of Bihar and Odisha was created. This is one decision, and another decision Britishers did in their own favor. They have very well recognized that Calcutta is the epicenter of all the nationalist activity. Then, and that is also the capital of the British India. They shifted capital from Calcutta to New Delhi. So they shifted capital from Calcutta to New Delhi in 1911, and the construction of the New Delhi city started at that point of time. So please mention that, change paragraph and then you mention, the British authority tried to address this resentment. Authority tried to address this resentment in Grand Darbar of Delhi. In Grand Darbar of Delhi, Grand Darbar of Delhi, 1911. Grand Darbar of Delhi, 1911, in which King George V, announced annulment of the partition of Bengal. Annulment of the partition of Bengal. Full stop. Annulment, ANNULEMENT. Then you write, East Bengal got merged with West Bengal. East Bengal got merged with West Bengal, and separate state of Odisha and Bihar were created. And separate state of Odisha and Bihar were created. Full stop. And Bihar was created. Moreover, it was also announced that the capital of British India would be transferred from Calcutta to New Delhi. From Calcutta to New Delhi. So this is what is all about this resentment at this point of time. Now we will give a pause to this topic. So pause to the continuation of this topic. We will go back to the 1890s. फिर से वापस चलेंगे. And for what purpose? To see that what Gandhi is doing at this point of time. So Gandhi is doing at this point of time how he has started his career in South Africa. So entry of Mahatma Gandhi, not in Indian scenario, but in modern Indian history. So you write a major heading. Just 1 minute. I'm just thinking that which color to use for Gandhi. Gandhi in South Africa. Gandhi in South Africa. ठीक है? So you can also mention it as the early career of Gandhi in South Africa. So I hope you all know that where he was born, what was his originally, what was his name. So these all stuff. Now listen, that his full name is Mohandas Karamchandra Gandhi, and Karamchand Gandhi, that's some part of the father's name. So father's name, patrilineal tradition. So now, you know that he was born in Porbandar, 1869, and he belonged to a family which you cannot say that they were quite well off, but they were good. That they were good and they had their own resources at their expense. In fact, his father was a munshi in the court of the local Raja. So they had good earning. And moreover, Gandhi's father's death happened, and after the death of his father, he went to study law in London. So he went to study law in London, and there were so many resistances when he was going to London. So his mother has so many reservations while he was going to London that she wanted to know, and she wanted a confirmation from her child that he must not be eating any non-vegetarian food in the London, because that's a non-vegetarian country. So there were many reservations, but Gandhi convinced the mother, and then moreover he went to London. He studied law over there in the London, and while being in England, he was a shy student. He was a very shy. Moreover, he was not fluent then, but he was witty. So he was not fluent, but he was witty. And over the period, he learnt everything. Right from the fluency to the very good speech and everything. So a shy student was learning very fast. So he was learning very fast. He was not a topper, but he was a very good student in the London. Then after learning law, he came back to India. And one of his initial assignment that he got, it is not the first assignment, but one of the initial assignment he got in South Africa. So he got in South Africa. Again here, the family members did not wanted him to go, but somehow, some way he has to pursue his career. And in this career, he went to South Africa. So this particular departure from India to South Africa was to fight the case of one Indian, or you can say that Gujarati Memon Muslim merchant. His name was Dada Abdullah. So Dada Abdullah's legal problem, he went over there to sort out some of the legal problems of Dada Abdullah. But while being in South Africa, he observed so many things. First of all, he is seeing that the type of the people who were there in South Africa, particularly from the India. So you know that long back when Britishers started ruling in India, and moreover they created many plantations, not just in India, but they created plantation in so many countries. For example, you know, plantations in Sri Lanka, plantations in Fiji, plantations in South Africa. So these all places, they were carrying the indentured labor from the South India, and then also area of Bihar, particularly if you look at this area of the Mauritius. So Mauritius, Bihari origin people are quite much there in the number in the Mauritius. When you go to the Fiji, so South Indian indentured labor, in fact, the president of the Fiji and the prime minister, all the authorities, they all of Indian origin. So that's how these indentured labor were sent to these all countries, and they became the natives of, not native, but the citizens of that country. So a good number of South Indians were sent as a indentured labor to South Africa. So Gandhi observed that good number of South Indian indentured labor. Then moreover, not this labor, but their first generation born in South Africa. So the children who were born in South Africa only, the descent is Indian, but they are born in South Africa. And then there was another, you can say that as compared to this labor, a better class of Indians in South Africa, they were particularly Memon Muslim merchant. So Memon Muslim merchant, they were पैसे वाइज बोलोगे तो थोड़े अच्छे थे as compared to the laborers, but as per the rights and immunities and privileges, they were also quite discriminated. So these were the people who were there in the South Africa. Moreover, that Gandhi also observed that all of them were heavily discriminated, and majority of them have accepted this discrimination as the way of life. So you know why they accepted it as a way of life? Because these Indians, they didn't knew how to challenge the exploitation that they were facing, how to challenge that exploitation they were facing, and the major hurdle to them was they didn't knew the language of the ruler. Then they were not at all knowing English. So they were not at all knowing English. If at all, they need to oppose. How come they will oppose? So Gandhi arrived in South Africa. And moreover, Gandhi arrived in South Africa. He observed this all kind of stuff. Moreover, he also went through that same sort of discrimination. So let's talk about that Gandhi's discrimination. So Gandhi has arrived in India, South Africa, and moreover, he considered himself to be a well-educated, and he was. He was a well-educated, and he also belonged to a good family in the Gujarat area. So he was not from a poor family. He was, you can say that, from the middle class, not upper middle class, but he was from the middle class. So then, and he studied in London, and in London also, in Britain also, he never felt discriminated, because altogether different scenario was there in the Europe. Then anybody goes to the Europe, there could be little bit of discrimination. You can say that little bit of favoritism, and favoritism could be there, but not as such discrimination was there in the Britain. So he felt that whatever that situation is there in the Britain, the same sort of situation would be there in South Africa also, because they are the rulers. So he bought a first class ticket in the train when he was going to, he was traveling from Pretoria. So when he was traveling from Pretoria, so he brought a first class ticket. What happened that he was sitting in his compartment, and then one white man, he complained about that how come a black man, an Indian, is traveling with me. So on the instructions of that white man, he was bundled out of that particular first class compartment, even after buying the tickets. And moreover, then after, he was forced to sit in the driver's box. And you know where? Not on the seat, but on the floor. So he was forced to sit on the driver's box. Then once he reached to the Johannesburg, and he started looking for the hotel rooms, and looking at his face, looking at his descent, looking at his color, all the hotels, they said, rooms are full, no vacancy. So rooms are full, no vacancy. So this is how he felt that really what is discrimination. For the first time he is facing the racial discrimination. And moreover, this is making Gandhi as a more resolute guy, the person who will guide this nation to in a different direction, and that direction purely based on the values of the non-violence and satyagraha. So please write few initial words about the Gandhi. We have much to write about him, and there are a few more things which we will discuss about him at this point of time. So I have written Gandhi in South Africa. You can write Mahatma Gandhi in South Africa if you want. But see, why I'm not writing Mahatma Gandhi? Because the Mahatma title is still not given to him. He was still a Gandhi. Okay? So you write that Mohandas Karamchandra Gandhi. You write his full name. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi studied law in England, and became a barrister. Studied law in England and became a barrister. Became a barrister. Became a barrister, full stop. In 1893, 1893, he landed at Durban. 1893, he landed at Durban to sort out legal problems of his client Dada Abdullah. To sort out legal problems of his client Dada Abdullah. Dada Abdullah. Then Then you mention he observed three types of Indians in South Africa. Three types of Indians in South Africa. First one, please mention. So pehla, first category, indentured labor. First, indentured labor from South India. Indentured labor from South India. Second, their children who were born in South Africa. Their children who were born in South Africa. And third, Maiman Muslim merchants. Maiman Muslim merchants from Gujarat. So Maiman Muslim merchants from Gujarat. And Dada Abdullah was one of the Maiman Muslim merchant from Gujarat. So then further you mention, he observed that all of them were heavily discriminated. All of them were heavily discriminated and they have accepted this discrimination as a way of life. Comma, they have accepted this discrimination as a way of life since they had no idea how to challenge it. They have no idea how to challenge it. How to challenge it. Then you write, Gandhi himself faced racial discrimination and humiliation. Gandhi himself faced racial discrimination and humiliation. So you write, what was this humiliation? Mention. He was bundled out first class apartment. He was bundled out of first class apartment while traveling from Pretoria. He was forced to sit in the driver's box. He was forced to sit in the driver's box. And when he reached Johannesburg, none of the hotels gave him a room. So now listen what happened. So he's already there and he has faced that discrimination. So initially that he was there for that sorting out that legal problem of the Dada Abdullah, but moreover, he also established an organization. The name of the organization was the Natal Indian Congress. So he established Natal Indian Congress in 1894. What was the purpose of this organization to be established by Gandhi? To protest against the oppressive treatment which was done by the white people against the Indians. Then, so this organization he set up. Moreover, he also said to the Indians that he would be teaching them English. Then, so he would be teaching them English, learn English from him, and challenge the British authority. So, over the period that what happened that after some point of time, the case, the legal problems were sorted out. Then, sab kuch theek ho gaya. So Gandhi decided to return back to India. Then, so he decided to return back to India, and moreover, when he was deciding, so the Indians, they persuaded him. They persuaded him to stay back in India, to stay back in South Africa, because at that point of time, there was one such policy which was affected by the British authority to disfranchise Indians. Then, so particularly in the Natal province of the South Africa. So in Natal province of the South Africa, the policy which was affected was disenfranchise Indians. So they wanted Gandhi to fight this case. Then, so they wanted Gandhi to fight this case, and they persuaded Gandhi to sort out their problems also. Gandhi decided that he would be staying back in South Africa to sort out this problem for some time, but that some time changed into 21 years. He stayed in South Africa. He was supposed to be there for the 2-3 years, but he went on to stay for 21 years. Then, so please mention that Gandhi founded Natal Indian Congress, Natal Indian Congress in 1894. In 1894, to protest against the oppressive treatment given to Indians by the white people. Full stop, then you write. He also offered to the Indians that he would be teaching them English. Then you write, he would be teaching them English. After full stop, on the issue of disenfranchise, disenfranchise passed by Natal Province Legislature. On the issue of disenfranchised Indians passed by Natal Province Legislature, comma, Gandhi was persuaded by Indians. To stay for a few more months in South Africa. to stay for a few more months in South Africa. In South Africa. In South Africa. And he went on to stay. And he went on to stay for next 21 years. He went on to stay for next 21 years. So this is what is about that initial phase of the Gandhi, that's how it has started. It's not over. Now his struggle will start. So his struggle will start, and then let's talk about that, the two phases of the Gandhi's struggle in South Africa. So the very first phase, we call it that moderate phase of the struggle, and the second phase would be the passive resistance phase or the Satyagraha phase of the struggle in South Africa. So let's look at these two phases of the Gandhi. So the first phase, moderate phase of struggle. Eighteen hundred 94 to 1906. 1894 to 1906. Then, so this is the phase in which he has established Natal Indian Congress. But listen, what was the moderate strategy? So the moderate strategy, the one which was there in India, same Gandhi would be keeping it over here. जैसा कि moderate India में कर रहे थे, वैसा he is also doing over there in the South Africa. So Gandhi concentrated in this phase on petitioning, sending memorials to the South African legislature, and then the colonial secretary at London, and also the British Parliament. So he was sending those petitions and the memorials to the concerned officers. And that was the exact same method which was adopted by the moderates in India. Moreover, he was not only doing this thing because he was of the view that there would be a fair play. Though he was discriminated in the beginning, but he has a greater faith because what he has seen in his study years in the London, that he was not discriminated. And in fact, that there was a kind of a generous treatment to him in the London. Then, so he was of the view that those Britishers who are there in South Africa, some one-off case could be there, but not all of them are like the same. So he was always expecting a fair play even at this point of time. Moreover, if the officers in the South Africa, they are outrageous, so then he believed that people in the London, they are good people. So that's how he is sending. Moreover, again, in the expectation of the fair play, there was this local war in the South Africa. And that local war was the Boer War. So, Boer War, which was in 1899. Then, so in this 1899, in the expectation of the fair play, or in the expectation that something would be given back to the Indians in the South Africa, he created that ambulance corps of the Indians. Then, so ambulance corps of Indians. Then, and you know for what this ambulance corps of Indians is created? To assist British. To assist British, or basically not assisting them in fighting, but those who are injured. Those Britishers who are injured in the war, medical attention given to them. Okay? So he created this particular, that he created this particular ambulance corps of Indians, and moreover, in return of this, rather than giving something to the Indians, some rights to the Indians in the South Africa, Britishers gave him the title of Kaisar Hind. Then, so they did not give him anything, but they gave him the title of the Kaisar Hind. Kaisar Hind. And moreover, Gandhi is going to renounce this Kaisar Hind at one point of time, but अभी नहीं बताऊंगा, जब होगा तभी लिखेंगे, ठीक है? Here only we will write that he was given this title of Kaisar-e-Hind. Then, so Kaisar-e-Hind, moreover, in this phase only, Gandhi has established the National Indian Congress and one newspaper that he has started. The name of the newspaper was the Indian Opinion. Indian Opinion. Please write. In this phase, Gandhi concentrated on petitioning. Gandhi concentrated on petitioning and sending memorials. Petitioning and sending memorials to South African legislature. Memorials to South African legislature, comma, the colonial secretary at London, in London. London के ऊपर नहीं बैठा है, London के अंदर बैठा है ना. So some places I do also mistake on the articles, but you need to ask the questions in your own particular language, जिसमें भी comfortable हो. That ऊपर बैठा है या अंदर बैठा है, ठीक है? So colonial secretary in London and the British Parliament. And the British Parliament. Full stop. In expectation of fair play, he created an ambulance corps of Indians. He created an ambulance corps of Indians to assist injured Britishers in the Boer War 1899. To assist injured Britishers in the Boer War 1899. Then, some of you are quite active. You see that where my eyes are going, that I'm turning it on or turning it off, and then you're just waiting to drop a thing over there. None of them would be addressed. Then, so, सब कुछ यही जान लोगे मेरे दोस्त, तो विजन में पूरी तैयारी कहाँ करोगे? You mentioned, you're right. Then, due to his support to the British, he was given title of Kaisar-e-Hind. This part you write. He was given the title of Kaisar-e-Hind. Kaisar-e-Hind. Then, full stop, then you write, he also set up National Indian Congress. And started a newspaper Indian Opinion. Started a newspaper, Indian Opinion. Then, so this is what is about the very first phase of the Gandhi. And now he realized no such thing is working in the South Africa, and now he will have to use his original weapons, and these are the weapons of the Satyagraha. So let's talk about the second phase, that is the passive resistance phase or the Satyagraha phase. So please mention passive resistance or Satyagraha phase? So passive resistance or Satyagraha phase. So listen, 1906 onwards, the Satyagraha phase started. Then, so Gandhi started this Satyagraha phase or the passive resistance. So now, what is this Satyagraha? Basically, the person who is committed to the truth. Then, but truth is not about that what you speak. Truth is all about that. It's also about the behavior. It's also about the law and so many other things. So, a person who is a Satyagrahi, okay? Not only he is sticking to the truth, but also he will not submit before anything. Listen this carefully. A Satyagrahi will not submit before anything which he considers as a wrong. Then, so which he considers as a wrong, and he will always remain truthful, and moreover, he will always be non-violent. So that is what is all about the Satyagraha. Then, so he will be fearless, he would be non-violent, and then he would be always seeking the speaking the truth, and moreover he will never bow down before a law or anything which he considers as the wrong. Then, or he will not bow down before the unjust law. So this is what was the Satyagraha meant at that point of time. And moreover, Gandhi is going to jot down the problems of that time, and he will try to address these all problems. Moreover, not only he is trying to address, but many times he will be going to jail at this point of time. So he will be going to jail at this point of time in this moderate phase, passive resistance phase of the struggle. So please write a word about the Satyagrahi. So a Satyagrahi was not to submit. A Satyagrahi was not to submit to what? To what he considered as wrong. To what he considered as wrong, but he was to remain truthful, non-violent, he was to remain truthful, non-violent, fearless, he was to remain truthful, non-violent, fearless, and he will not submit before any unjust law. He will not submit before any unjust law. Then, so this is one. Then listen, that what were the things at this point of time, or what were the main issues of that point of time. So one of the issues that all the Indians who were there at this point of time, they needed to carry their certificates of registration. They needed to carry all the time, they needed to carry their certificates of registration ties in their neck. Then, so this is discriminatory. Now in the modern world, you can see that this is also a kind of a slavery, that you are going with a tag that see that I'm an Indian, I'm living in South Africa, so I'm a slave of the Britishers. In the modern world, you see the tag that abhi to pandemic mein nahi hai, but you see the tag of that company, multinational company, like that, any company you consider, I'm not naming. So multinational company, and also wearing their t-shirt. Without their t-shirt, you cannot do anything. Then, for example, there are some academies which people go for learning purpose. Then they choose the courses from that academies, those academies. And these are the fun academies, I hope you know. And the teachers would all the time, they would be wearing the t-shirts, and there would be fun element written over there that it is a fun academy. So I hope you know. And how monotonous is this? See, one day somebody asked me that why don't you go to, if you are given a big chunk of that money and then to join that the academies where there is so much of fun. So I said that it's only for the name it is fun. Daily you are wearing the same t-shirt, black color t-shirt with that same name tagged. It is highly monotonous for me, and for the sake of that cert, I will never join such kind of organization in my life. I want to change my clothes every day, not the same stuff I want to wear all the time. So these are the fun academies, you know that, and then you are representing that you are the loyal employee of that particular company. To hell with that. Then, so we are a free personalities, we are the free people, and we must not be bound by any such that slavery. So this is this. I was comparing. I hope that for some of you it was not funny, but bear with it. So now get back to this. So they needed to carry their certificates all the time. Then, and moreover, at this point of time, to address this issue, Gandhiji created Passive Resistance Association. Then, so Passive Resistance Association, and at this time, Gandhiji was sent to the jail. Then, and with large number of his followers, they were sent to the jail at this point of time. So that is the first issue, and he created Passive Resistance Society. Now, so another law, it was passed in the 1908 and 1908, and this was introduced to restrict the movement of Indians. Then, so this was introduced to restrict the movement of Indians, just like the one which happened in the pandemic. ये unfortunate था कि movement सबका restrict हो गया. Many people wanted to go to the malls, but they were limited to their houses. So now, Indians living in one province of the South Africa, they cannot move to the next province of the South Africa. Okay? So if the Indian is there in the Natal, he cannot go to Transvaal. So to break this law, Gandhiji said that he urged large number of Indians to break the law, and then they entered into the Transvaal province from the Natal province. Again, large number of Indians were arrested by the Britishers, including Gandhi. Then another thing, that marriages which were not conducted according to the Christian methods, they were to be invalidated. So ek tarah se kya ho gaya, that this last one, that even if you are a Hindu, even if you are a Muslim, even if you are a Buddhist, but your marriage must happen according to the Christian law, the direct meaning is that you convert to Christianity. Otherwise, your religion or your marriage would not be recognized. So that is what was the problem. And in this regard, in this all, Gandhi has created one ashram. The question I'm leaving to you, okay? Question I'm leaving to you. So, can you tell me the name of the ashram which Gandhi created? For this, please don't do Google. कल मैंने बहुत कुछ बोला था इस पे. आता हो तो भेजो, नहीं आता हो तो छोड़ दो. अच्छा रहेगा. So, can you tell me that what is that particular name of that ashram which Gandhi created? उससे related और भी question पूछूंगा. पहले इसका जवाब दो, ठीक है? So this response screen is all yours. So ठीक है वैभव, you send it to me this Nazmo. So अच्छा रहेगा, ठीक है? So आंसर्स मैं पढ़ रहा हूं. Tolstoy, yes, you guys have read little bit. तो उसी से पढ़ लो ना. अच्छा है तो उधर में ही पढ़ लो. विजन आने की क्या जरूरत थी? साबरमती आश्रम इन साउथ अफ्रीका. ओ माय गॉड, ये तो बवाल कट गया. ठीक है, साबरमती आश्रम इन साउथ अफ्रीका. Tolstoy, very good. Very good. In Kanika, you are also saying Sabarmati Ashram. Sabarmati Ashram Sabarmati के किनारे था. South Africa में थोड़ी था. So many answers. Now, out of this so many answers, the one which is correct, I didn't expect it that the right answer will come, but it was the Phoenix Farm. Phoenix Farm or Phoenix Ashram. Okay? So Phoenix Farm or Phoenix Ashram. Okay? This is what was created. So this is the first form which Gandhi created. And now the next question I'm bombarding to you. Okay? So Vinita, you have sent the right answer. I hope you have studied this one. And शुभम सक्सेना, you studied from that guy of the Fun Academy. Answer तो नहीं दिया तुमने. Then, so now, listen. The next question: what inspired Gandhi? This has been a question also. So, what inspired Gandhi to set up the Phoenix Form? What inspired Gandhi to set up Phoenix Form? ठीक है? So, any idea? Anyone? I'm expecting that since the person who has sent the right answer, Vinita, you can send the right answer for this also. So what inspired Gandhi to set up Phoenix Form? And then I will tell you the purpose of the Phoenix Form. वो बाद में, ठीक है? And एक और question पूछूंगा उसके बाद. After that. So there are 3 questions. सिर्फ क्वेश्चन का जवाब देना और कुछ मत लिखना तुम लोग, ठीक है? So any idea? Don't know भी लिख सकते हो. You guys can write don't know. I don't know, मुझे नहीं आता. I think किसी को नहीं आता, ठीक है? To make place for Indians for movement. Subham Kumar Sharma. अच्छा, this Subham is different from that Subham. There are many Subham in this class, ठीक है? So his German friend, I guess. Don't know वाला सही है. So Subham, you have tried your best, but that's not the right answer. इसीलिए तो आए थे. अच्छा, okay. Don't know. To safeguard, there was a pandemic. ऐसा कौन सा pandemic था भैया? मुझे तो नहीं पता है. To inculcate Indian values to the children in South Africa. Forgot autobiography बहुत पहले पढ़ी थी. किसकी autobiography? बहुत पहले पढ़ी थी. Okay. So I think the person who has said this part. So now, no, Vinita. There was a book which Gandhi read at that point of time. Listen this carefully. There was a book which Gandhi read at this point of time, and that's a highly inspiring book. Yes, very good, Assis. That's the John Ruskin's book, Unto This Last. So Gandhi read this, Unto This Last. आप लोग भी पढ़ना, ठीक है? So this was the John Ruskin's book, and Gandhi was inspired by this John Ruskin's book, Unto This Last, and this book inspired him to create the Phoenix Form. So this book inspired Gandhi to create Phoenix Form, and moreover, this is the place where Gandhi was training his cadres. So this is the place where Gandhi was training his cadres. Okay? So he was training his cadres, and moreover, the question which I will ask, the next question, the third and the last question which I'm asking, can you tell me the birthplace of the Satyagraha? Can you tell me the birthplace of Satyagraha? Unto This Last. Okay? So see that these all things I have not taught in the previous batches. I am adding in your batch. Okay? In form of the questions. So this is how the value addition can be done in the classes. So please mention that if you get a question in the prelims examination, that what was the birthplace of Satyagraha forwarded by Gandhi. So, as Prashant has mentioned, South Africa. Divyansu also mentioned South Africa. And Vaibhav, I am waiting for that Nazm. भेज देना मुझे या क्लास कोऑर्डिनेशन में भेज देना. I would just read. ठीक है? So South Africa, you all are right. It is South Africa. Then, but yes, Pal, it is Phoenix Form. Question में South Africa और India नहीं देगा क्योंकि सब लोग correct कर लेंगे. If I am asking this question at this place, so this is the birthplace of the Satyagraha. So Phoenix Form is the birthplace of the Satyagraha. ये याद रखना. अरे चंपारण मत जाओ, वो बाद में आएगा. गांधी जी ने पहले वहां पे अपने वेपन्स साफ कर लिए थे, उसके बाद देन इंडिया में आए थे. देन सो चंपारण तो बाद में होगा. देन सो Phoenix Form is the place where Gandhi sharpened his tools of the Satyagraha. So please mention few words about. First of all, I just forgot that what was the last line. I think that last line क्या लिखा था? Please tell me that what was the last line you have written. So anyone from this class, please, सब लोग मत लिखना, मैं नाम बोल देता हूं. So Sajid, Muhammad Sajid, please tell me that what is the last thing I mentioned. What is the last thing that I dictated, and then accordingly I'll dictate the next part. Not to submit before unjust law. Thank you, Kritika. हो गया, ठीक है? So not to submit before any unjust law. Then you write that at this point of time, the major issues were, at this point of time, the major issues were, and number one, you write, major issues were, number one, please mention. Indians, first one, Indians needed to carry their certificates of registration. Indians needed to carry their certificates of registration all the time. All the time. All the time. Full stop. Then you write, on this issue, after full stop, you mention, on this issue, Gandhi created passive resistance association. यहाँ पे लिख लो, passive resistance association. On this issue, Gandhi created passive resistance association. Then, and instructed his followers to not pay heed to British instruction. To not pay heed to the British instruction, meaning that don't carry your certificates. ठीक है? देखते हैं क्या होता है. नहीं carry करेंगे. So I will share one such thing, and I think that today's class, आज एक काम करते हैं. I will not give you break if you guys are happy with that. Then, and I will leave you little early. ठीक है? थोड़ा पहले छोड़ दूंगा. But let's continue with do it in continuation. So I hope you guys are also okay with that. ठीक है? So I will share one instance with one of the class. I remember very well in 2019 in one class, I was in same kind of energy, and then I was saying that I would not have carried that certificate of registration. Then, so next day what happened, that one guy was so, and that was the time when the offline classes were going on. So there was one student, and he was quite nice. So he was so charged up with that particular class that next day, when I came into the class, so there was a confrontation which was going on, and that confrontation was between that boy and that the office boys who are there from the division. So the duty of that office boys were that they need to check the identity card of the students so that they can enter into the classroom. So then the confrontation was this, that from today onwards I would not be carrying any identity card. Then and then he was not allowed to sit in the class. So then I intervened, and I just said to the office boys कि आज allow कर दो, ठीक है? And then I said to him, it is not about carrying. यहाँ बताने के लिए कि यहाँ पढ़ते हो पैसे दिए हैं. So then next day onwards he started to bring it, but on that day he was so charged up कि अब से मैं carry नहीं करूँगा किसी का भी identity card. So that was fun. Then next you write, second one. Please write. So please write. A new legislation in 1908, a new legislation in 1908 was introduced to restrict the movement of Indians. To restrict the movement of Indians. full stop, to restrict the movement of Indians, to defy this law, to defy this law, to defy this law, a large number of Indians, to defy this law, a large number of Indians crossed Natal province, Natal, N-A-T-A-L, crossed Natal province and entered into Transvaal province, and entered into Transvaal province. So large number of Indians crossed Natal province and entered into Transvaal province. Now listen, so when they are defying the law, so obviously they will be jailed. So at this point of time, large number of Indians, near about 500 to 600 Indians, they were jailed in one such jail. So after, when they always stuffed in a one single jail, so they all started to call that this is not a jail, this is King Edward's Hotel. Then, so this is King Edward's Hotel, and they celebrated that now we are in the King Edward's Hotel. So that was the scenario at that point of time. Then next one you write, we are not writing this King Edward Hotel, but I just said. Next you write, third one, marriages not conducted according to the Christian methods, marriages not conducted according to the Christian methods or Christian rites, right, R-I-T-E-S, according to the Christian rites, were to be invalidated. Were to be invalidated. Were to be invalidated. Then you write, Gandhi fought for these all issues. Gandhi fought for these all issues. Then you write, you change paragraph and you must write about the Phoenix form. That is one of the most important thing that he has done. And there would be the second important also, which I will tell you. Then, so please mention that he was inspired from John Ruskin's book. He was inspired from John Ruskin's R-U-S-K-I-N''S. So John Ruskin's book, Unto This Last. Unto This Last. Unto This Last. And he set up Phoenix form. He set up Phoenix form. He set up Phoenix form. Then उसके बाद लिखो after Phoenix form क्या इसमें और बचा है. So you write that what was the purpose of the Phoenix form. So mention that this place was meant for training his cadre. This place was meant for training his cadre on non-violence and satyagraha. Non-violence and satyagraha. Moreover, Phoenix form is considered as the birthplace of satyagraha. Phoenix form is considered as the birthplace of satyagraha. Then the next form that he created, Phoenix form for training cadres. Then another form he created, and this I think most of you have written. So that was right. Then that is also the form that he created. And in fact, that the Tolstoy form which we are going to discuss, that is the precursor to the Sabarmati. Okay? So Tolstoy would be the precursor to the Sabarmati. Okay? So let's write, or listen first. So with the help of his German friend Kallenbach, Gandhi, he established Tolstoy form. And Gandhi was also inspired from Leo Tolstoy. So Gandhi was also quite much inspired from Leo Tolstoy, and that's how he created Tolstoy form. And the purpose of this form was little different. It was meant for housing Satyagrahi and give them an alternate way of living. So this was meant for the housing Satyagrahis and give them the alternate way of living. Okay? So you write that with the help of his German friend, Kallenbach, he created, you can see the spelling here, Kallenbach, he created Tolstoy form. To house Satyagrahi. And give them a way. To house Satyagrahis and give them a way to sustain themselves. Then you write to sustain themselves. After full stop. This form was precursor to the Gandhian ashrams. In India. Then, so I'll write a question. on the board, and you guys need to answer that question. So, let me write the question. पूरा question लिख लेने दो. So, which of the following statement is correct in regard to Gandhi's stay in South Africa? So, let me write it 1, 2 or A, B, C लिखते हैं, ठीक है? So, A, that Gandhi created ambulance corps of Indians in Zulu War. Gandhi stayed in South Africa 21 years uninterrupted. C. Gandhi denounced Kaisar-e Hind title in 1919. The title was given to him in South Africa, so that's why I'm writing this one. And D, that Gandhi created ambulance corps of Indians in Second Boer War. Then, so let's shorten it little bit so that the question would be visible, and I'll give you the options, so the combinations. So which all is correct? So so number 1. So the correct ones, I'm marking it as A, B, C. ठीक है? Then 2, B, C, D. ठीक है? And 3, A, C, D. And 4, all. अरे मेरा क्वेश्चन पूरा किए बिना सारे आंसर्स आ गए. You guys have started writing. I have not written the full question and you started writing. ये कहते हैं तुक्काफिकेशन. And how many answers? बाप रे. D, 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 D. So there is only one change. There is no DC. Send your answers in 1, 2, 3, 4. A, B, C, D मत ले भेजो. ठीक है. Now the answers I will count from that. The people who have sent in the numbers. 2, 2, 2. Siddharth, why you feel that none of them is correct? ऐसा कौन सा लिख दिया है? Okay. Oh my God. सब बहुत ध्यान से पढ़ रहे हो. All of you are reading it very right, and then this is how you guys are quite attentive. Then, so I have thought that I would be asking questions to you. Many times you guys ask any type of questions to me, ठीक है? But अब से मैं तुम लोगों से बहुत सारे सवाल पूछूंगा. अरे विजय, इतना अलग क्यों हो? Why you are so different? Vijay, Neelam, Vijay, again, Vijay and Neelam, why you are different? Now, the answer is, so you guys are saying it, that 2 and all. That's how most of you have come to that conclusion. So most of you have come to conclusion is all and 2. And what is 2? B, C, D. The answer is A, C, D. The answer is 3. So answer is 3. Now, Gandhi also created, this is what I have not mentioned. देखो बहुत सारे ways होते हैं. It's not only the class. Listen this carefully why I created this question. It's not only the class notes from where you get so much of information. You are giving the mini test. You are also participating in the objective test. You are also, there is a complete course in the vision. There is a mini test, there is a objective course test, there is a test series, and you need to use services of these all, and that's how you don't need to refer to anything outside which is there in the market. When you are using all the services available to you in the vision. So not all the information you can have in the classroom, but yes, all the information definitely you will be having when you have used all the services of the vision. Then, so listen, that I cannot point all the time. Then I cannot point all the time that ki Zulu war mein bhi participate kiya tha. In fact, Gandhi also created ambulance corps in Zulu war. This was also the local war in South Africa. And here he created ambulance corps of Indians to assist the inflicted, to assist the injured Britishers. So this is correct. Then Gandhi denounced Kasare in the title. I didn't mention this one. He denounced it after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. तो छोड़ दिया. And then Gandhi created ambulance corps. So when you were writing, so at that point of time I didn't mention second Boer War, but it was actually second Boer War in 1899 when Gandhi created it. So this is also correct. But this is not correct. Gandhi did not lived in South Africa uninterrupted. It was interrupted. He came to India. ये कहानी सुनानी थी मुझे. 1896 he came back to India, and obviously this is the time when he would be, and he was a bit emotional for his wife then. So emotional for his wife, and then at this point of time, the wife is going to, back with the Gandhi, and moreover, not the wife, not just the wife, but also a large number of 800 Indians, Gandhi supporters, they are going from India to South Africa to further train these people. Then, so for this purpose, Gandhi has come to India in 1896. And 1896 ke baad, if I would have written from 1896 it was uninterrupted stay, so that would have been correct. Done? I hope you understood. Okay? So, let's write. अरे यार थोड़ा बहुत चलता है, ठीक है, this point of time. See that some of you are very much into the semantics rather than understanding that what has been asked. ठीक है? So later, let's, which of the following statement is correct regarding to Gandhi? Let's cut this, stay in South Africa. हो गया ना question? So what is correct regarding to Gandhi? This is what you wanted? Your semantics is over. Then, so now listen. Finally, listen. Finally, what happened? So after these all kind of stuff in the South Africa, finally there was a series of negotiation, and this negotiation involved Viceroy Hardinge, then at that point of time, and C.F. Andrews and General Smart. So involving these all people, the major demands of Gandhi, they were conceded, meaning that whatever he wanted, most of the things were fulfilled. So most of the things were fulfilled, and finally Gandhi started back his journey back to India. He came somewhere in July, he started in July 1914, and he came back to India. Then, so he came back to India. Moreover, one more aspect, that these all conversation, negotiation, it happened because after the visit of the Gopal Krishna Gokhale into the South Africa, Gandhi invited him to the South Africa in 1912, and Gopal Krishna Gokhale went over there. Moreover, Gopal Krishna Gokhale went over there, and Gandhi started to consider him as his guru. And while Gandhi was doing these all things in the South Africa, there were many Indian industrialists. I will not quote, I will not dictate, but this is what is the information, that many Indian industrialists helped him. For example, that the Tata family sent him 25,000 rupees at one point of time to continue his struggle. So these all are the some stuff you will not find at all the places, but this is what is the story all about. And please write the last paragraph about the Gandhi. So write, finally, through a series of negotiation, involving Viceroy Hardinge, C.F. Andrews, so you can write these all names, Hardinge, C.F. Andrews, and General Smart. So through a series of negotiation involving Viceroy Hardinge, C.F. Andrews, and General Smart, the agreement was reached. And major demands of Gandhi was conceded. So you can say that he was successful at this point of time in South Africa. Moreover, the success of the Gandhi has brought more laurels to the Gandhi. He is returning back to India. He is seen from a different lens. He is seen from the different angle that there was somebody who made the Britishers kneel before him and not resorting to the violence, but by the simple methods, but the very difficult. To say it is simple, but the very difficult to say the truth, to follow the non-violence, and to go with the Satyagraha. Okay? So this is what was the Gandhi's initial tenure in South Africa. We will talk about him at the time of the, after completing Home Rule movement and the Gandhian phase in India. So we will talk about him in the third phase, and third phase would be the start of the Gandhian also, and third phase is also related to the Home Rule movement. Okay? So now we still have a little bit of time, so listen. And this Zulu war thing which I mentioned to you, that war was in 1906. 1899 was the Boer War, second Boer War, and if you want to write Zulu War, so that was in 1906, Zulu War. Kahin pe likh lena side mein. So now we are going to start with the, revolutionary nationalism. Because some books they have mentioned it as a revolutionary terrorism, okay? But I would not use the word revolutionary terrorism. We would be using or revolutionary nationalism. So there are many phases of the revolutionary nationalism. The three phases we are going to read in our history part. That is the phase 1, 2 and 3. And phase 1 will also include the pre-phase. Okay? So pre-phase and phase 1 combined, and then phase 2 and then also phase 3. So please mention revolutionary nationalism. So the next big chapter, yes, revolutionary nationalism. So we are going according to the timeline that what has happened. Okay? Zulu war year was 1906. Okay? 1906. So now there are three phases. So here I am writing pre plus phase 1. So pre plus phase 1, it seems like that pre-exam I have written. So pre is basically around 1876. Okay? There are instances of, or let me write it very clearly. Ek baar ruk jao. Let me mention it in a different color. So let me complete this part. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Okay? As if that I am creating the different phases of the DLF in Gurgaon. Then, so the pre-one was, pre कब था? अक्टूबर में. अभी अक्टूबर में है. So pre was 1876 to 97. Why I am doing this mistake? So 1876 to 1897. Okay? So this is pre-phase, and phase 1 1905 to 1915. This is phase 1. And phase 2 1924 to 1935. Okay? And phase 3 1942 to 1947. So these are the three phases of the revolutionary nationalism. Now it is clearly visible. Then, so please write these all phases. So revolutionary nationalism. So now, I disabled the responses screen, but I need to ask one question. Okay? एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन आज की क्लास का, and let me ask, I'm enabling it. Reply to the question only. So the question is, who is considered as the father of Indian armed rebellion? The question is, who is considered as the father of Indian armed rebellion? Please give me answer. Who is considered as the father of Indian armed rebellion? See, I know about my subject. मैं पूरे सिलेबस और पूरे कोर्स के बारे में कुछ नहीं बोल सकता, ठीक है? मेरे सवाल का जवाब दो, मुझसे सवाल मत पूछो, ठीक है? So now answers have started to come. Soumya has said Aurobindo. Kanika also saying Aurobindo. Puspendra, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Aditya has said Birsa Munda. Subham, Chandrasekhar, and then Subhash Chandra Bose, Bhagat Singh. Don't know. बहुत अच्छा आंसर है. मतलब मैंने बोला कि आई वुड बी हैप्पी विद द डोंट नो, तो तुम लोग डोंट नो ही हमेशा भेजोगे, अपने एंड पे कुछ पढ़ोगे नहीं तुम लोग. शिवांगी, देन बोस बोस बोस, भगत भगत भगत, विवेक. ओके, बहुत तेजी से मैं देख रहा हूं, जितनी तेजी से आंसर्स नहीं आ रहे हैं. सचिंद्र नाथ सान्याल. हाँ, मत पढ़ो साजिद, बिल्कुल मत पढ़ो. नॉट एट ऑल रिक्वायर्ड. एवरी क्लास यू राइट डोंट नो. सो नाउ, सो देर आर टू राइट आंसर्स. अगर जो ये लोग होते, आजाद, भगत, सुभाष चंद्र बोस, तो मैं सवाल नहीं पूछता. If they would have been the answer, I would not have been asked this question. And the answer is, Shivangi and Vivek, you have sent the right answer. Vasudev Balwant Phadke. Okay? So Vasudev Balwant Phadke, he is considered as the father of the Indian armed rebellion. Then, and I will talk about him only. So the pre-phase. So pre-phase, and in pre-phase, mention Vasudev Balwant Phadke. Vasudev Balwant Phadke. So he is the one who is considered as the father of the Indian armed rebellion. Then, so father of the Indian armed rebellion. So now listen, that what he did in 1876, after which he started to be called as the father of the Indian armed rebellion. Listen this carefully. So he had a great compassion for the farming community and for the local people. So he was from Maharashtra, and he has this great compassion for the suffering of the people. And moreover, in 1876 and 77, what he was going through, that what his community and then his people were going through, the systemic exploitation by the Britishers. So systemic exploitation by the Britishers, what he did, that he created a revolutionary group of Ramosi. And this Ramosi I have taught you in that so-called class of the tribal and peasant uprising. Or usme somebody did had a kind of reservation कि नहीं हमको कुछ अलग चाहिए. So now let's get back to this one. So Ramosi uprising. So he created a group of revolutionary of Ramosi. Moreover, he also he also collected the people from the other communities, and these communities were Koli, they were Bhil, they were Mahar, they were Mang and Dhangar. Then, so these all communities I'll be mentioning. So Koli, Bhil, Mahar, Dhang, then Dhangar and Mang. So these all communities, they supported Vasudev Balwant Phadke. Then, so Vasudev Balwant Phadke, and what he started. So 1876 onwards, he started an armed struggle against the British authority. And regularly, with the group of these all people, he raided the company factory, company treasury, and looted the money to use it for the armed struggle. Moreover, that looted this, so he was quite successful in this, and there came an instance there came an instance somewhere in 1877 only, when for few days, virtually, that entire administration of city of Pune was in the hands of Vasudev Balwant Phadke. So that he used the opportunity of this particular a little bit casual attitude of the officers in the Pune, and then he captured the city of Pune for a few days. But again, when the British troops came, so then he escaped from that, he fled from that place. He knew that to continue the armed struggle, he need to survive. So he need to survive. Moreover, what he did, that he was such a courageous person that some of the British officials, which he didn't like, and which not only he didn't like, but those who were the after that who were main reasons of the discrimination, so he raised a bounty on their head. Then that, and he raised a bounty on their head, and he said that if somebody brings their head, somebody brings these British officers, so he will be awarding them. So now from here onwards, British authority, they started the search of the Vasudev Balwant Phadke, and it's a very the kind of a normal story in the Indian scenario, that there was a traitor. Always there was a traitor in the Indian scenario, and that traitor informed to the Britishers. So he was going to Pandharpur. It's a very famous place in the Maharashtra. So he was going to Pandharpur, and on his way to Pandharpur, he was arrested by the Britishers. So after the arrest, even after the arrest, one such place, he escaped from the arrest. So he escaped from the arrest, and moreover, a case was filed against him. So you know that who was the lieutenant of this particular person, Vasudev Balwant Phadke, in this case, G.V. Joshi, whose name we have written earlier in the Economic Critique of Colonialism. His original name, full name, was Ganesh Vasudev Joshi. So he was the one who was fighting the case of the Vasudev Balwant Phadke. And moreover, when the case was going on, Britishers were not ready for it, so he went on to a hunger strike. So he went on to a hunger strike, and finally he died because of this hunger strike in 1883. So he did not die because of the British bullet and British execution, but he died because of the hunger strike. So likh lo kuch thodi bahut baat. So you write that around 1876 and 77, around 1876 and 77, Vasudev Balwant Phadke created a revolutionary group of Ramosi. A revolutionary group of Ramosi. Then you write, he was supported by Bhil, Mahar, Mang, and Dhangar community. He was supported by Koli also. So one more, Koli, Bhil, Mang, Mahar, and Dhangar community. Then you write, he started an armed struggle against the Britishers. He started an armed struggle against the Britishers. Then, and regularly raided British factories, or British treasury, you can say. Regularly raided rich and British people. Rich bhi, not just the British, but rich people. Rich and British treasury. Then you mention rich and British treasury. In 1877, for few days, Pune city for few days, Pune city was in his complete control. Was in his complete control. Was in his complete control. Full stop. Then you write, he is often referred as father of Indian armed rebellion. Father of Indian armed rebellion. Father of Indian armed rebellion. So that's the first in the pre-phase. And the second in the pre-phase, Chapekar brothers. Chapekar brothers. Then, so second in the pre-phase is the Chapekar brothers. 1897. Then, so, last question. Chapekar brothers, let me tell you that first of the, that what were the things which led to their resorting to the revolutionary nationalism. So first of all, that in 1897, that Chapekar brothers, they killed the British officers, okay, and name of the British officer, Walter Charles Rand, and then the lieutenant asked. So there are two officers, W.C. Rand and Lieutenant Arst. Then, so these two were assassinated by the Chapekar brothers. What was the reason? The reason was that Pune city was going through the bubonic plague. And in this bubonic plague, there was hell lot of atrocities done by these two officers, W.C. Rand and then Lieutenant Arst. So what they were doing, that they were not even informing the people at any time, even in the midnight. They were barging into the houses of the people and just identifying that who is suffering from the bubonic plague, and then after who is suffering from the bubonic plague, and then they were segregating the people from the family, then killing also some of the people who are suffering from that severe bout of the bubonic plague. Moreover, they were digging the houses, that these are the houses where the bacteria of the bubonic plague is there, bacillus bacteria. And then moreover, so much of discrimination, so much of atrocity was there at this point of time, that people were more frightened with the British treatment rather than the disease. And finally, enough was enough. The brothers, Chapekar brothers, they killed, and they successfully killed these two, W.C. Rand and Lieutenant Arst. Now, the question is, kitne brother the? Don't Google. The question is, how many brothers were there? And if at all, their names. Please write. In 1897, Chapekar brothers, good. Chapekar brothers assassinated the British officers, you write, W.C. Rand and Lieutenant Arst, these name. So now, as I can see, oh, Subham, Kumar, Sharma. So, Google कर लिया, मानोगे नहीं तुम आखिर, ठीक है? I don't expect people to remember these all names. Without doing the Google, you cannot send the name. If this would have been the case, अरे कुछ तो integrity maintain करो, ठीक है? All the people who have sent two, they are not right, and if I'm asking this question in this way, definitely it will be more than two. Brothers हैं तो दो होंगे ही, और 2 से ज्यादा होंगे अगर जो मैंने सवाल पूछा है. So that's 3. I only expected that you guys will be sending the that particular things. But yes, this is also giving me a little bit of insight that who does the Google. And really, देखो इतना कम इंटेलिजेंट मत समझना मेरे को, नहीं तो यहाँ पे बैठा नहीं होता मैं. So now these 3 brothers were Damodar Hari Chapekar, then Vasudev Hari Chapekar and Balakrishna Hari Chapekar. 3 brothers. Then so that's what is there. And please write. So you write. Then you write. They wanted to take the revenge of. They wanted to take the revenge of atrocity exacted on people, atrocities exacted on people during the bout of bubonic plague in Pune. During the bout of bubonic plague in Pune. Then bubonic plague in Pune. Then next you write, and this particular killing of these 2 British officers, it can be termed as the first example of the political assassination in India. So you write that it can be termed as first example of political assassination. First example of political assassination. Then and brothers के नाम लिख लो, ठीक है? Next time तुम्हें Google नहीं करना पड़ेगा. So you write, these brothers were Damodar Hari Chapekar, ऐड कर लेना सब में. Vasudev Hari Chapekar and Balakrishna Hari Chapekar. Balakrishna Hari Chapekar. Then atrocity. Atrocity nahi, atrocity. Sometimes it seems like that we are going to the Delhi Aerocity. So that's what is about that. This first phase of the that pre-phase of the that revolutionary nationalism. ठीक है? So one last thing we must write. ठीक है? उसके बाद दिन छोड़ देंगे. So reasons for the rise of the revolutionary nationalism, and then we will enter into the phase 1 in the next week. ठीक है? So एक last heading लिख लो, that reasons for the rise of revolutionary nationalism. Reasons for the rise of and particularly we are talking about that the period of this particular 1905. ठीक है? So ये 1905 onwards के लिए है reason. बाकी के रीजन तो वहीं लिख लिए थे. ठीक है? So for the revolutionary nationalism. Then, so first of all, this is very clear. I'm not going to say that give you something which you don't know. In fact, you all know. It's only need to be told you once. So the young leaders, the young people of India, they were highly disaffected with the methods of the moderates. ठीक है? Disaffected भी छोड़ दो, highly disappointed with the methods of the moderates and what they did. Then, and moreover, repression of the extremist leaders like the Tilak, and who was the ideal of the young people, they did not tolerate it. And the Swadesi movement was cut to half after the arrest of the Tilak and Lajpat Rai and all the other people. Okay? Then another thing obviously would be the suppressive policies of the government which people are seeing. And moreover, there were many inspirations from the outside India. So inspiration from the revolutionary activities outside India For example, at this point of time, Japan defeated imperialist Russia. A tiny Japan, this much Russia was defeated. So please write, quickly likho. Disappointment among the youth. Disappointment among youth from the working pattern. Disappointment among the youth from the working pattern of the moderates. From the working pattern of the moderates. Working pattern of the moderates. Second, then you write, repression of the extremist leaders like Tilak, Lajpat Rai, etc., etc., and Swadeshi movement becoming leaderless, and Swadeshi movement becoming leaderless. Then next you write, suppressive policies of the government. Suppressive policies of the government. Suppressive policies of the government. And then the next one you write, inspiration from the revolutionary activities. Inspiration from the revolutionary activities outside India. Outside India. For example, Japan defeated imperialist Russia. Japan defeated imperialist Russia. Okay? So Japan defeated imperialist Russia. So this is what is all about the reasons that we needed to cite today. And nazm to abhi mere paas bhi nahi pahunchi hai. Jab pahunchegi to bata dunga. And Ansul, you can send the line that you have read in the newspaper. I will see that usko kaise explain karenge. So with this note, आज मैंने 3-4 मिनट पहले क्लास छोड़ना है. So now it is over and we cannot go into the very first page because rhythm is what is history. So next day पढ़ते हैं in the next week, and then happy Independence Eve to you and happy weekends also. Hopefully कल तुम लोगों की क्लास ना हो. I don't know that what you are going through, 3 classes, 4 classes, but hopefully कल क्लास नहीं होगी. कल तो 15 अगस्त है, वैसे भी कल ट्राई डे होगा. So that has nothing to do with the classes then, but नहीं होना चाहिए, दिल्ली में है ना. तो चलो, happy Independence Day Eve to you. Good night.